What is going on, traders? Welcome back to the Traveling Trader. Today we'll be going over the GRS cryptocurrency, the altcoin rally that we've had in 2019 so far. It's been a great year to say the least, with coins like Coin, Theta, BNB, etc. And of course, we'll get into Bitcoin and talk about some of the traditional market news for today. All right, taking a look at the market cap, it's currently sitting at 134 bill. This hasn't really changed within the last couple of weeks. It's becoming more and more stable, famous last words, but it has been really stable over the last couple of weeks, teetering between, 132 to 134 bill. Looking at the coins in BTC value, some of the biggest gainers over the last week, Litecoin, obviously, if you've been around the channel long enough, you'll know that this is one of our long-term holdings. BNB, we've been holding BNB since November. If you want access to the trade alerts, link is in the description. I send out an alert for the swing trades I'm making, as well as the long-term holdings in my portfolio. Some of the old classics that we seem to have forgot about, ICX is up almost 20% in the last week. 0x is up 12%, Steam is up 27%. And of course, we've had coins like Coin and Theta, which are now seeing huge corrections from the high points that they've achieved. Obviously, after gaining over 100% in some of these cases, a correction is something expected. Now, the extent of a rally is something that you can't predict with ease, right? You can just, TA is not about predicting. TA is about reacting accordingly based on what the market is giving you. So if you look at something like Theta, you see these bull flags here. What these patterns do is give you potential exit and entry points. You can't really predict what it's going to do, but it's basically conditional, right? You say, if it does this, then I'll do that. And so TA is really about reacting accordingly. And then obviously you can use something like the fib levels to predict the extent of a rally. And you'll see here on Theta, the rally went up to around the 1.272 fib level before correcting back down to the 1 level. If you're having trouble with your technical analysis or just don't know where to start, you can sign up for one-on-one sessions with me. That link is also in the description. So let us talk about Grs Coin real quick. This coin went absolutely apeshit. Now, obviously, those that are skeptical about pumps like this, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm skeptical myself. Why? It's not really because of the price jump. It's because of the volume jump, right? You see that the volume doesn't even register on the screen, right? This coin has been trading on Binance since April 2018. And you see that there is absolutely no volume. It doesn't even register on the screen. And then all of a sudden you get this, influx of volume, this tsunami of volume here. And obviously that drives the price up. Now, why did Grs Coin pump like this? Well, in my view, some of it obviously is orchestrated, right? Some of it is deliberate manipulation, but it's also because of the momentum of this news right here. So GRS, I think it's pronounced GroestlCoin. Apparently, it launched a debit card that's backed by MasterCard. Now, this isn't that hard to do in terms of getting a card with a MasterCard or Visa logo on it. As a matter of fact, if you live in the US, you can go to your local pharmacy and see tons of these, banks that you've never heard of, these gift cards where you can preload those cards with cash and use them if you have trouble getting a credit card or you don't feel like using your credit card and you want some anonymity. You can buy those at your local pharmacy here in the US, and they do have MasterCard or Visa logos. So this GroestlCoin debit card, they try to make it seem, or some of the community try to make it seem like MasterCard signed an official deal with GRS, but no, it's a GRS backed debit card with a MasterCard logo, meaning you can load your debit card with fiat by using your Polis wallet. So it's not even like you're spending the actual cryptocurrency. You're just loading the card using your Polis wallet, and that essentially gets loaded onto the card as fiat currency, and then you can spend that card at anywhere that takes MasterCard, or I think they also did launch a Visa one at some point. But anyway, this isn't some sort of revolutionary deal, but as things in crypto go, and we've said this tons of times before, there aren't really any fundamentals in crypto. So any news like this is prone to cause a spike in price and the momentum crowd jumps in and pushes this coin further, as well as some of the institutional orders. There were some ridiculously large orders in this volume spike here as well. Now, is this something you can predict? No, of course not, because you see that there's just a lull in volume unless you got in at the ICO level or you managed to buy it at some point and just hold. There isn't really a way to predict something like this. So if you weren't on board the gravy train, don't feel bad. I mean, I didn't hold any GRS either, and I still don't. Now, over time, as these candles play out, yes, you could do some technical analysis and try to identify points of entry. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't feel bad about missing the boat on something like this because it's completely out of the blue. Now, for some coins that we did make a killing on, let's talk about Raven Coin first. Raven Coin is one that we traded multiple times at the breakout of this resistance level here, right? It was forming a rounding bottom. We bought in at the breakout of this. And as I said earlier, nobody knows the extent of a rally. So it's not like we thought, like I knew that Raven Coin would jump 70%. It was just, in terms of TA, there was just an optimal setup there and a low risk, high reward potential. It just so happens that it rallied and went apeshit and went 73% before forming this bull flag once again. And then we entered again at the breakout of this bull flag before rallying again. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how do you know when to sell? Well, you don't. What you do is set a rolling stop, either using something like 3 commas, or you can institute it yourself. Set a trailing stop to where you increase your stop as the price inclines. And that way, if it does retrace, you protect all those profits that you made along the way. You're essentially playing with house money. So now we are out of Raven Coin in massive profits because of this correction here and waiting for entries to get back in. I will definitely be sending those out on the trade alerts. Again, if you want access, link is in the description. Theta, same thing. Theta saw multiple bull flags before finally correcting, and now it looks like it has found support at the 1 Fibonacci level. There might be a good point of entry here. You can either scale in at the 1 Fibonacci level, or the point of support, which happens to be at the 1 Fibonacci level, with a tight stop limit, or you can wait for another breakout above the resistance where it has stopped a couple of candles already. BNB is one that I've been scaling into since November. This has been our biggest gainer, 156%. Now, the thing about BNB is it hasn't really corrected. There's been a couple of 10% corrections along the way, but it hasn't really corrected in the way that Raven Coin has or Theta has, where it's lost a lot of its value after a massive pump. It just continues. You'll see here in this magenta line, it just continues to exponentially spike. This is like a parabolic growth without much correction. So if you're up this much, right? So if you're up 150%, you can be a lot more liberal with your stop limit. So you could set a stop limit of minus 20% or minus 25%, something that you wouldn't do before, but that's because you already have gained 150%. And that way, in case there are any major or sharp retracements, you can get out safely and book your profits. But you also want to stay in if the retracement is, say between 10 and 15%. You don't want to jump out of the coin. You want to keep it for the long term. BNB continues to be my largest holding in my long-term portfolio. Engine Coin is another one that was pretty easy to read. You had this sideways channel that was, basically playing out since the second week of February or third week of February. And it was just trading in the sideways channel, minding its own business until you get this huge volume spike here. And it broke out of this channel. Again, you can safely enter a trade like this with a tight stop limit below the channel. And, once again, you don't know the extent of this rally. So Engine Coin, breaking out of this channel, rallied almost 100 and a little over 120%, 130% before retracing again. And same thing, you don't know, when it's going to retrace back down. So you could just set a trailing stop limit and book the profits that you've made. And now we've retraced a massive amount on Engine Coin. You'll see that it's down. It went down all the way 37%, came back up a little bit. So we're down almost 30%. Not we, but the coin itself is down 30%. Obviously, you're going to get out way before that. But the coin is down almost 30% since hitting its highs. And what you do here is look for re-entry points. And sometimes with some of these coins that are a little more obscure, they never see a rally again for months, right? Like you never hear about it again for months. Worst case scenario, it retraces back down to where it was previously. So it's not like you will always have a buyback opportunity. Just keep that in mind. But you do scan for buyback opportunities all the time as a trader. Finally, we'll look at Bitcoin. Looking at Bitcoin, this is probably the most unremarkable coin because it is trading within this channel that it's been for so long. And I posit this all the time, that what if Bitcoin maintains a certain range in the same way that gold has previously, or another commodity like silver has, where it just maintains this range and doesn't really see these vast fluctuations that we've seen in the past. How would that make you feel as a trader? Well, for me, I'm out of swing trading Bitcoin. There are times when, I've traded Bitcoin, and I've traded Bitcoin even with leverage on something like BitMEX. But currently Bitcoin is off limits for me because it is within this range that is meaningless. It's range bound for me, right? So unless it trades, over 4,300, if it closes over 4,300 or below 3,200, then we'll have a change in structure. But currently to me, this is not something that I even, care to trade. You can scale in for the long term if you want, or dollar cost average, whatever you're doing for the long term. But in terms of swing trading, there is no volatility even for you to take advantage of with Bitcoin. You do see the 50 and the 100. This is on the daily chart. The 50 and the 100 at a potential crossroads. If the 50 crosses above the 100 and we get good volume, we could see a rally back up to the resistance point. Breaking this is going to be a tough job, something that we haven't done in 4 months, right? We haven't been over this line. And the tougher job where a real reversal will come in is if we close above a previous high. So for there to be a real reversal in Bitcoin, we would need to close above around the 6,500 level. Otherwise, we could be trading sideways forever. And worst case scenario, if you look at the weekly, if we do break the 200 weekly average, which it's not looking like, it looks like we're actually forming an ascending triangle on the weekly, but the volume is what's alarming, right? This volume is not really going to propel us further up, no matter what the short-term bullish pattern looks like. Without volume, you can't really break out of this. So either you're going to get the volume necessary and see a massive breakout of this ascending triangle. And by massive, I don't mean going to 20K. I just mean potentially retesting the previous high. Or volume continues to dwindle and we get a rejection of this bullish pattern. But it is really a volume-based game, right? That's why Bitcoin is so hard to predict, is because the volume is just stagnant. It's not really giving you any new pieces of the puzzle. Looking at the markets, the traditional markets, it's still early in the morning, so the news right now is pretty much moot. But we did add stock alerts to the Discord community as well. That's for the diamond traders and above. They also get access to the stock alerts. And one of the investments that we currently made was on UWT, which is an oil ETF. Looking at the UWT oil ETF, it was making an inverse head and shoulders, right? You could see it here. And oil was considered, at a low point in price anyway. So breaking out of this inverse head and shoulders, right? We bought UWT at around this level here, and you see that it is currently up 10% now. Obviously, you can take profits. The traditional markets move a lot slower than crypto, but you could either take profits or hold out for the long term for potentially massive profits on these oil ETFs. But this is one of the sectors that I'm big on. Another trade that I was looking on making, but I did not send out an alert for this because I did not make a trade on this, but Boeing, if you haven't heard the news, Boeing's plane, they have this plane called the 737 MAX 8, which is one of their new 737s. And there are two major incidents that happened over the last few months. The latest one happening on Sunday, which was a crash in Ethiopia, killing everybody on board. There was 157 people on that flight. But there is reportedly a defect with this plane. And so all of these governments, the latest now being UK and Malaysia, have barred the 737 MAX 8 and have refused to fly those planes, right? So it in terms of the stock price, obviously our thoughts go to everyone who has passed away from those tragedies in Indonesia and in Ethiopia. But in terms of the stock price itself, you see that between the news on Sunday and yesterday, the stock dropped 5%, and then between the news, of these governments banning the planes yesterday and today, the stock dropped another 4.5%. So almost 10% down since the incident happened on Sunday. Now that was a pretty easy short to initiate if you wanted to. I couldn't bring myself to do it just because of the tragedy involved in that piece of news, right? Like it was a pretty easy read. If you've been around the markets long enough, obviously something like that, terrible news like that, is going to cause an imminent decline in stock price. And this stock price could decline further. I mean, just back in January, it was trading at around 295. It's currently at $382 a share, but it was trading at 295. And that is, aside from the second incident that happened on Sunday, and aside from these governments banning the 737 MAX 8. And by the way, it's not like there's just a couple of them. There were over 370 planes were delivered, these 737 MAX 8 jets. So I suspect that almost every country that it was delivered to is going to ground these planes and not fly them. And even more so, Boeing might just recall all of those planes, which would be, imagine the cost of building 370 planes. Like, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars. So, Boeing stock price could decline further, but I couldn't bring myself to initiate a short on Boeing due to those events. You're basically profiting off of a recent tragedy that just happened 2 days ago. Anyway, may their souls rest in peace. That is it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below. Hit that thumbs up if you got anything out of this video. If you want access to the trade alerts and the stock alerts as well, link is in the description. If you want one-on-one time with me and help with your technical analysis, or don't know where to start, or you want to advance it to the next level, that link is also in the description. Stay safe out there. Peace.